Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from Carson City. On the broadcast today, State Senator Scott Hammond, the co-minority whip on the Republican side, plus on the Power Pundit panel, Alexander Marks, John Sande IV, Russell Rowe, and Trey Abney. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers. 40 years ago, Hotel California and the theme from Rocky were #1 on the pop charts, and D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal started on the road to becoming Nevada's leading roofing company.
I couldn't be more proud of what we've achieved.
And over these 40 years, we've become an employee-owned company. So when you're talking to any employee, you're talking to an owner.
And here's to the next 40 years.
Happy 40th birthday, D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from the state capitol here in Carson City in the old Supreme Court, and we're delighted to be joined by co-minority whip State Senator Scott Hammond. Pleasure to have you back on the program, and thank you so much for doing this at this late stage in the game. So first question has to be, are we going to get out on time?
Oh, I think absolutely. You know, we have a constitutional mandate that says you have to be done in 120 days. We'll be done in 120 days. We'll have everything signed. The budget will be done. There may be some questions at the end, but I think those questions will be answered at a later date. If we have to come back into a special session, that'll happen, I think, on a much later date. But I think we're going to get out of here on time. Okay, so that's interesting the way you phrase that, because the big question is extending these taxes. And Senator Settlemyre, the leader, has already said that, you know, if that tries to get pushed through without a 2/3 vote, that you guys are going to likely file a legal objection. What do you think which way do you think it's going to go? Do you think they're going to try to get this through without a 2/3 majority? Well, yeah, I think they're going to bring it to a vote. They have it tied up into a bill already, 551, that they introduced the day before yesterday. They've already changed it. It's already had another iteration. They've taken a portion of that particular bill where they were going to give the I think it was the excess sales tax that were going to the police officers down in Clark County, and they decided to get rid of the portion that said they're going to get rid of 50% of the excess will go to the school police, and they're going to change that so that the whole cops bill is now in 551. That was just introduced the other day. The MBT is also in there, and so they're asking for a vote, and they're not going to get that vote, so I don't think that they're going to get that 2/3 that they need, but they're going to try and get it through. So once it gets through the Senate, goes over to the Assembly, then of course the governor, if he signs it, that means now we have a constitutional crisis and it's going to have to be resolved. I don't know if it's going to necessarily need to be resolved before we leave here. Most likely, we're talking about the last day perhaps that the bill, or even after the last day, the bill goes over to the governor, which means that we will be done. Sine die will happen Monday night, 12 o'clock, and then we'll find out whether or not we need to come back later on. Okay, but and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just asking for an opinion here. If you don't have that 2/3 vote, then do you have a budget funded? Well, that's a good question because
you
the
can't
opinion,
leave if you don't.
No, but the opinion is that, okay, this goes back to, 1994, right? The tax initiative restraint was passed in 1994. It passed 78% by the people. 2 years later, 96, it was passed again by, I think, 70%. And we've had that in place ever since. And all it basically says is if there's any time that you're going to try and raise taxes or keep a tax in place, then you have to have 2/3. I've been here 8 years. I've been here, this is my 5th session. Every session I've been involved in, any type of bill that involves the same sort of components. We've always had. In 2011, we had the bill that came to us that said that we'd like to keep the sunsets in place. That required a 2/3. Now, all of a sudden, at the beginning of the session, the governor gives a speech and says that he would like to keep the MBT in place as is, even though the trigger already happened back in September, basically saying that in July 1st, around 23,000, upwards of 23,000 businesses were going to get a tax break as the commerce tax was actually delivering more than it needed or more than they thought was going to happen, that the MBT would then buy down. And so that was all in place. The governor said in his inaugural speech, he said, in his State of the State, I'm going to remove that, keep that tax in place. He got his lawyers to give him an opinion that said that he could do that without 2/3. A couple months later, lo and behold, we get the same opinion from the LCB writers, even though for years now it has been different. It has absolutely been different. And so really, the governor says he needs that $100 million. I think it's about $98 million that's going to be generated from the MBT. For us, I don't think that that's necessary, because if it's about money, there's plenty of money. They have been actually saving money. They actually took $120 million out of the DSA, out of schools, put $60 million back. There's $60 million there. On the Medicaid, Medicare rolls, the rolls are lower now than they were before. They saved $40 million. There's $100 million right there. That's $100 million that can be used for the $97 million that they say that we need in 551. Then, of course, if you really wanted to, there's the diversion. Right before money goes into the rainy day fund, they have to place money in the rainy day fund. That's if they just take 1% of that, that's I think it's $90 million. So there's plenty of money. This has all come down to the fact that they just want the MBT. They want our vote, and they want to actually disrupt the Constitution the way it is right now. That's the constitutional crisis that's being created right now. This can all go through. We may still have a hole, but the hole may not be decided. We may have to come back next week. I don't know. I mean, the week after, I don't know. All I know is that we'll probably get through. Excuse me. We'll probably get through that Monday night.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is the one-shot money could be used to fill this gap. It doesn't have to be the MBT for the budget to be able to clear.
I'm saying there's plenty of money. That's what I'm saying. We've seen that. We've actually had fiscal people come into our offices, give us a briefing, and show us that on the rolls we have plenty of money.
All right, let's take a break. More with Senator Scott Hammond when we come back.
Tamarack Junction is South Reno's hotspot with over 450 of the latest slots and video games. Sully's Sports Bar, the Dining Car Restaurant, William Hill Sportsbook, and the Tamarack Steakhouse and Lounge. We're just north of the Summit Mall in South Virginia. Yeah.
Because of UMC, there's a wide open road ahead of me.
Because of UMC, she can grow up with her twin sister.
Because of UMC, I'm here to help you.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
The Tamarack Junction Steakhouse is known for signature steaks, handcrafted cocktails, and world-class wines. Join us Thursdays and Friday nights from 4:30 to 6:30 in the Steakhouse Lounge for live music, gourmet plates, and well-priced wines, just north of the Summit Mall on South Virginia.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with the co-minority whip on the Republican side, State Senator Scott Hammond. Education, the rural counties, very concerned about what's going on here at the legislature with the Nevada plan. And the Teachers Association is in a way lined up with Republicans on this. What are your thoughts on, our rural schools getting screwed here?
Okay.
My phrase, not yours.
Your phrase, okay. Well,
inelegant.
An elegant phrase. Well, I look at the bill, first of all, most of the time we do, and I think you've had other people on here who talk about how the sausage is made in the legislative process, the legislative building. And a lot of times we bring bills at the beginning of session, especially large, very, policy-intensive bills that are going to change things dramatically. We bring it at the beginning of the session, we vet them all out. This particular bill, I'll tell you that the downside was that the bill came really late in the session. And we never really got a chance. I think they had a 6, 7, 8 hour hearing. I can't remember. It started, it didn't finish until 12:30 a.m. the next day. So they did have a very lengthy hearing on it, but the only change they've made to the bill so far was the one that they introduced during that hearing. They actually said we have a mock-up of an amendment, and so far they haven't taken any amendments again. So I'm not too thrilled with the way it's been introduced. And the last 8 years, I'll say this too, the last 8 years we have been really talking, all legislators, the state of Nevada has been talking about one Nevada and making sure that we're all moving forward, that we're all in it together, right? And I think that's important to note. Yes, the bill does actually change the way the pie is divided, changes the chairs on the deck, however you want to phrase that. And rightfully so. I think that what we need is money following kids. We need to find out how much money each child needs in order to be educated. That I agree with. And I agree that money should go to where the need is. So in that respect, I understand the need for this particular bill. I just haven't been very happy with the process. I haven't been very thrilled with the way we've had limited discussion, and I'm not thrilled that in this case, 14 out of the 17 counties will take it in the short, so to speak. That's my phraseology, not yours. And I think that the goal, of course, of the bill is to hold them harmless for a shorter period of time, and then look to try and find ways to make sure that we're moving all forward again. In that intent and that goal, I can support. It is definitely going to be a change. Of course, the next 2 years, we're going to keep stay the course. We're going to stay on the funding formula that we have right now, and we're going to just kind of plug in the numbers, the formula, into the new funding formula, and see how it performs. And then all the recommendations going forward in the next biennium will be the recommendations for the budget will go into that new formula. That's the way I read it right now. But to kind of summarize, again, not happy with the process. The goal is actually admirable, and I really respect that, because we do have to have a change. Money does need to follow kids. We need to find out how much money each child deserves or needs in order to get educated.
Criminal justice reform. Are you pleased with where things are heading now that the Assembly Judiciary has backed off a little in terms of what they're trying to accomplish?
Yes, but then again, the question is, I love your question, but you got to remember that over in the Senate, we have been busy doing a lot of work. I'm not always up on what they did. They just passed this yesterday. Meanwhile, we'll be getting it soon, and we have been getting a lot of big bills in the last couple of days. 551, which I mentioned the other day, that just came to us, that has rolled in the cops, and it rolled in the MBT, rolled in school safety. It's all that's coming. My mind's been on that. Then we also have the school funding formula that just came. My mind's on that. I haven't, and of course today we'll be in Judiciary in probably less than 20 minutes. We'll be talking about AB 291, which is another gun bill, and they're adding a whole bunch of new stuff into that bill, particular bill, red flag laws being one. Assemblyman Fumo's bill, I think it was 153, AB 153, which died in the Assembly, is now being rolled into that. So there's so many things going on that I haven't really been able to keep up with what's going on with that particular one. I'll be reading that tonight and going through it just to make sure that I know what came out of it. But I am pleased, and I think you had Assemblyman Yeager here earlier. Chairman Yeager does a great job of making sure he brings in all the stakeholders, talking through these bills. That's, he loves the process. He loves the idea of being able to sit down and say, hey, here's the goals. Where have we been too ambitious? Where can we, scale back? Or, how does everybody feel as a comfort level? And then he gets to that point where, when the bill comes to us, there's a little bit more of comfortability for me when the bill comes. Well, I'll go through it and make sure that I'm completely comfortable with it before I vote yes or no.
I've heard from several people over the last few days that there's so much going on at the end here, but this is no different from a normal session, is it?
No, I mean, there's always going to be a lot of things going on, but what makes this different, I think, is because it was kind of a slow start. And so you have a lot of bills in finance, both the Ways and Means over the Assembly, and you have a lot of bills over here in Senate Finance. And because there's a lot of bills that they haven't gone through, here we are still in committee hearings going through pretty lengthy bills, and that is a difference between the other sessions. I've been in 4 sessions. This is my 5th session, and the number of really hefty policy bills that are still stuck in the Assembly and in the Senate waiting to switch over because they're in finance or Ways and Means. That, I think, is a larger number. It's a heftier weight in those committees. So that is a difference.
Do you expect that there's a lot of things that are just, because of the time factor, are going to end up being pushed to the next session?
Oh, absolutely. They're just not going to be able to get through everything. Last night we had, I want to say, about 20 Assembly bills rolled into, come over from the other chamber and then pushed off to our different committees. And that's going to happen probably for the next couple of days. There's just I don't think there's enough time to go through them all.
As a Republican, how do you feel about this session when you've got a supermajority in one house and one vote difference in the Senate?
It's motivating. I'm a competitor.
That's a positive place to go. Okay.
Yes, it's a motivation. I'm a competitive person. I like to compete. Sports were a big thing to me as growing up, and I just get competitive, and I look at it and I say we have to have some changes somewhere, and I'm going to go out there and really support a lot of candidates that we're going to put out there in the field, and support a lot of incumbents out there. But I think that we need to have some parity. I think it would be good for the state of Nevada to have some I think some balance in the government. We would have fewer bills, definitely. If we had a majority in one of the houses and they had a majority in the other house, certainly we would see a lot fewer bills coming through the process.
And that's where we have to leave it. Thank you so very much. Again, thank you, especially for coming in so early this morning.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And we'll be right back.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Are you a homeowner who's interested in remodeling or building a home? At Design Outdoor, we can show you how adding natural or manufactured masonry stone can add beauty and value to your home. And we refer only the best contractors. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Hey guys, are you watching the game at a friend's or the bar again because you can't watch at home with your wife? Or worse, because she kicked you out and kept your couch, your flat screen, and your kids? What's the one thing a man needs when he loses a good woman? A good lawyer. And when he loses a bad woman, he needs a great lawyer. What makes a good woman a bad woman? You tell me. You're the one that can't watch the game in your own home. I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and I represent men in divorce, custody, and family law matters.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from the state capitol here one more time in the old Supreme Court with a great Power Pundit panel. John Sande IV is here with Argentum partners, Russell Rowe with the Rowe Law Group, Alexander Marks, NSEA political coordinator, and Trey Abney, managing partner of Abney Tauchen Group. So I had to go down this road, which is that we have objections from the gaming industry to the consumption lounges. You've already got Las Vegas approving one. You've got a lot of marijuana dispensaries very concerned because this was an opportunity for them to grow. Your thoughts on this?
Well, there's so many thoughts on this.
We have time.
Gaming obviously is skeptical about the industry since it's federally prohibited, and that's going to remain until Congress takes some action.
And rightly so.
But with that said, though, I think a lot of this stems around the prohibition on public consumption and defining what is public and what is private. Can a business entity create a private lounge where people can come and consume legally? That's the question, and we just haven't gotten far enough around the conversation to define the parameters of that. What the bill right now is suggesting is that we study it for 2 years and then come back and then let's define those parameters. There's a lot in the industry right now that are saying, we already kind of know the parameters, this isn't rocket science, let's authorize them now, let the local governments figure out how they want to do it and move forward, and that's kind of where the debate is right now.
Russell, do you think that Las Vegas, the city of Las Vegas, is going to file some kind of objection to the fact that they've already approved a consumption lounge, and now the legislature is potentially telling them that you're not ruling on this?
Yeah, I'm not sure who they're going to file an objection with. I mean, they can speak to the governor, of course, and leadership. But just to comment on gaming's position, gaming didn't necessarily oppose consumption lounges when the city of Las Vegas considered them. They wanted to make sure there were some separation requirements between the consumption lounges and non-restricted licensees. That's the same thing the industry is asking for in the legislation.
But was it not 1,000 feet far enough? I mean, we had the dispensary owner of Planet 13 on the program, and he was saying that they were okay with 1,000 feet, but 1,500 feet seemed to be a step too far.
Yeah, well, where do you draw the line, and what's right? It seemed pretty arbitrary where the numbers are coming from.
They felt the same way.
Well, they did, but the 1,500 feet was the reason 1,500 feet was proposed at the city of Las Vegas for a separation from non-restricted licensees is because that's the distance that's required for separations between taverns, and the industry felt that does make sense, right? The local governments around the country have separation requirements between taverns, right? That tends to be standard law around the country, having similar requirements with respect to marijuana establishments, not just consumption lounges, all marijuana establishments, doesn't seem to be a stretch, right? And having a basis of 1,500 feet comparable to alcoholic establishments seems reasonable.
The problem here, of course, is, Alexander, that people are already smoking this stuff. Tourists are coming here buying it. They're going to find a place to smoke it. So by not giving them any place to smoke it, it doesn't, or even edibles.
Yep.
I mean, you just can't do it. It's ridiculous.
It's an industry that's evolving very quickly, and I think we have to keep up with these kinds of things. And I think that's why you're seeing, the session after session, we're continuing to figure out where else can people consume this product. And from my perspective, from the education funding perspective, the more people who are consuming it, that's certainly more revenue for education. I think that's a consideration for all of us. And now that we have a bill that will redirect those proceeds to the DSA instead of the rainy day fund, I think that's great, but certainly, there's a lot of legal logistics and hoops to jump through, but, I supported it when it was on the ballot. I think it's just a evolution of an industry, and you have to figure out where people are going to be able to consume it, because they are going to. And
they already are.
Right. Yeah. And if it's regulated properly and it's safely done and there's no public safety issue, then I don't necessarily have a problem with it.
And law enforcement is not objecting to the consumption.
No, the horse is out of the barn, and again, we're rapidly diversifying, but we're still a tourism-based economy. And as you mentioned, people are flocking here, they're buying it, and then they have no place to legally consume it. Certainly it's in the resort industry's best interest to have some place for these people to do it, because they'll go back to their hotel room and do it, and they don't want that, you know. So they're going to have to figure it out.
Which is already occurring. I mean,
yeah,
I stay in Las Vegas, as you guys do, on a fairly regular
smell
basis.
it everywhere.
You walk down the hallway, hello.
Yeah.
Well, you can drive down and you'll just see taxi cabs dropping people off, and there's not a whole lot of locals taking taxi cabs. So where are the non-locals taking it back to?
Right.
That's a huge consideration, so I agree with him completely.
And now that government is addicted on this money from this legal drug, you know, we're going to figure out how to manage it.
And isn't that the bottom line, is that two things. One, the tax money that will be going to all these different jurisdictions, and when will the federal government wake up and want their cut of it? But also, you know, the fact that, you know, this is definitely, obviously, pardon the pun, a growing industry. And, you know, we saw with Uber and Lyft that they hired all the lobbyists they possibly could and beat back the taxi industry in the state, which was amazing because the taxi industry had so much power before. Do you see a similar thing happening with marijuana, where you're just going to see every lobbying firm in the state hired on their behalf?
Well, on to that question, you're already seeing it. I mean, just almost every lobby firm has a marijuana client that they've been representing. But gaming obviously is still one of the big players in the state, and they are, you know, they have a vested interest in this question. But I did want to mention, though, the federal government, obviously they could get a lot more of it, but even though it's federally illegal, the federal government's still getting their cut of it. These dispensaries and marijuana grow companies are still required to file the federal tax returns and pay on that. They don't get the deductions because it's illegal, but there's federal government's not stupid.
They just have to mail it in thick envelopes.
That's right.
They drop it off in
the cash payments.
You know, Russell Al Capone could only dream of this, right?
That's exactly right.
And that's where we have to leave it. Gentlemen, thank you all, especially for coming in so early this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thanks,
and
Sam.
we'll be right back. A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hey, Dad? Are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this. Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it. Yes. Yes, they will.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
In addition to NevadaNewsmakers.com, you can also watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you on the next broadcast.